The official and full release of Staying Afloat is here, everyone, complete with the quote-unquote completed Wirt and Winona skill trees at that, but with count them 6 hotfixes that I simply didn't get to over the course of the beta. This update is nothing as it was in our first guide there, so get prepared for a flood of mechanics, merms, and more. And we begin with what's been the fishiest part of the new content, Wirt skill tree. Now, I've barely showcased this thing as I haven't had the mental fluidity to power through the crashes, but with it all tightened up now, we can finally do what we do best and guide. This first skill grants a sanity regeneration as wetness grows, and with both perks activated, we can see ourselves netting 1 sanity per 10 seconds under the proper conditions. But speaking of, Wirt finds herself adapting to the constant with all-weather scales that will not only significantly reduce her temperature dropping when fully wet, but also sneakily limit how fast a heat source will dry her off, as you can see. And Good Guy Clay has made things simple for me, as the numbers are the exact equivalent of mental fluidities, even with both healing perks activated. But to wrap up her amphibian branch comes Slippery Hide, which turns wetness into armor essentially. Now there is some math at play in the background here that honestly gets a bit annoying with a single level of this skill, so just know that with 2 Slippery Hides activated, all damage taken is doubled, but it will be taken out of your wetness meter if it's full enough. And yes, additional armor pieces do help protect Wirt even further in this case, which could theoretically make her invincible. But one last sneaky amphibian note is how Slippery Hide also makes Wirt wet when she's on her new marsh turf that's to come soon. But speaking of, it is time to master the swamp itself with the help of mosquitoes. Little Itchy here is very easy to craft and renders Wirt immune to mosquitoes overall for its 8-day rot timer. Their bombs here, which see their initial explosions hurting, a lot I might add, but the mosquitoes inside are neutral to us and our followers, so while they're not spectacular in combat, they are very much usable, especially come their own explosions from sucking enough blood. But Fertilizer is next, and adds 12 of each nutrient to our soils, followed by her blood shots that heal her for 16 a pop, but her merms by 100. But nab yourself Itch Crap too, however, and not only will you be able to snatch up these bombs will explode into more mosquitoes, Bloodshots will hit us and our merms for their initial heals, but now heal us over time on top of that, and Fertilizer will now provide 20 nutrients per instead. But now the real fun begins with the King's quests. The King's Pauldron will ask us to give the guy a marble suit to help grant all armored merms 15% more protection, with Wirt gaining 10% herself with any head armors. The Crown quest activates once the king is given a Thulsite crown, and will grant all merms the ability to dodge attacks every 10 seconds, while also reducing negative monster auras for Wirt for whatever reason. And finally, the Trident quest is self-explanatory, and will grant all merms 5% more damage, including Wirt, plus a 33% chance for merm guards in particular to perform a triple attack in combat, 10% hunger boost, and a 15% slower hunger drain overall, so do with both of those as you wish. Moving on to Sensible Swamp Fighter that sees our loyal merm guards specifically fleeing combat once they're down to 25% health. The Community Feeder skills come together to not only speed up merm respawn timers within their radii by nearly 50% with the proper kelp offerings, but can also be used to gather nearby merms to quickly amass an army at the cost of fewer offerings to specific merms. Industrious merms and the hard-headed skills continue the trend of having far too many levels of one skill, but the tool sheds here, well, tools that they can then use to till farms, chop trees, and mine, with the Murmurees granting our loyal guards a helmet that will offer them 50. Whatever the case, it all leads to our final skills of the day, the Ignorable Swamp Pathfinder and her Shadow and Lunar affinities. The latter lets her transform any merms via Moonglass, which boosts their health by 40 points while granting a potential damage reflection mechanic that will deal roughly 40 damage itself, while the former literally resurrects merms into an exact shadow variant of that merm, so that's freaking neat. But get both shadow affinities, however, and your Mudslinger turf will then generate shadow tentacles upon hostiles being hit, even if you're not the one hitting them, while a second lunar affinity will also create new marsh turf for a few minutes at the cost of an 8-minute Mudslinger cooldown, while bringing enlightenment and planar having merms into play. Have fun. But that's not even the half of it, everyone, as it's Winona's time to shine. Spacious Spotlight is next, and it turns what you see before you now into what you see before you now, while also introducing the handy remote that for now simply activates all catapults at one time with a couple clicks. Energy Saver does what it says and prevents generators draining when machines are in their new sleep modes. Quick Charge simply boosts an already pre-existing mechanic now built into gadgets and generators from Winona, charging, by doing what it says and doubling recharging efficiency for all gadgets to come. Precise targeting and barrage are our first remote tweaks that allow for, yup, you guessed it, precise targeting of our catapults, plus a 1 second increase to our fire rates for all the catapults in range for 20 seconds of our barrage activation. Greater generators is self-explanatory as they increase efficiencies with every skill taken. However, here's a visual of what that means while generators are actually in use with an 8, and here's what it all looks like with all 3 perks activated. Rapid fire is essentially barrage without having to use a remote, which is rather redundant. Horror generator skills allow the use of nightmare fuel as a generator fuel that leads to an overcharge of sorts with even more generator efficiency. Planar strikes will deal less damage initially, sure, but will now leave behind vines that will damage all hostiles that are moving within them at 34 damage a tick, but not us. Lead to Charlie's rose-colored glasses that can create a 20-second vine bridge over caps, can allow and lead to nightmare fuel or pure horror every 4 minutes, just as long as we examine things that help us remind Winona of Charlie, both on the surface and in the caves. And if you want to know what to look at, the list is right here. Lastly, Shadow Seeker 2 not only grants full immunity to Charlie, which is kind of strange, but leads to fragile roses as well, which makes up for it and then some, even if fragile roses are strange, as they allow us to freely revive at the portal or any nearby that lead to the inspect toggles here that signal and lead to cache boxes every half a day, some of which are locked mined. Deceivers can help you learn any prototyped recipe with 1 scan, and in turn lead to the Winona exclusive Winbot, which is just a smaller rechargeable Wobot there. But 2 affinities in this branch lead to level 2 caches that will lead to some of the old classics in Wagstaff's Telebrella and Telepad with the help of those very perceivers once again. And while they do have unlimited range now, are portable, rechargeable, and can be used at will, so make note of that. But 2 last notes before the true flood. Catapults no longer damage walls, and dismantling catapults fully heals them. Enjoy. But even that's not all, as it's time for the true staying afloat portion of this staying afloat update, everybody. And hold on to your butts as I'm firing through this quick. The Crab King fight has changed dramatically with new ice spells, an ice arena, crab towers, minions, and more. And blue gems increase barrier health while giving less time on the ice. Greens increase the number of claws and the damage. Yellows increase tower numbers and health. And oranges have him healing more efficiently. To continue, the guy drops bottles and his bumpers now, when the latter are tougher than others, are repairable via rocks, and are immune to ramming land no matter the speed. And finally, if the cracked pearl is given to Pearl, all messages in a bottle lead to a guaranteed sunken chest. But speaking of, the loot table of all chests has been shifted a little bit, but the main focus are their 15% chance to drop an archaic boat that is twice as strong as our normal ones, and comes with a 16 slot storage, plus a sunken chest surprising seeds. At first we only have a 10% chance to find one, but that will reach 60% come day 150 plus. And with these puppies, it doesn't stop there. The 2 unique trees they produce must start their growth on a proper turf with sprout rocks like in Rocky Lands and Summer. And once fully grown, we still have to wait for them to produce. But once they do, we can harvest sprout rocks for geodes that can be heated up for a chance at all gem types, or we can pick the new night berries that will grant night vision for half a day. It's cool stuff. But now comes all the extras. Pirate raids have a 35% chance to spawn with chests now. Pirate stashes hold more loot and even stacks that loot. Ocean set pieces are a thing, and while some are bountiful ruins chests, others are potentially and last for at most half a day. Players themselves can fully block boat leaks. Items can do the same, and the heavier the item, the longer the hold. Marauders are now coastal or waterlogged mobs that roam all over the damn place, collecting loot, killing ocean mobs, attacking us if we hold fish or meat, do not enjoy being pillaged themselves, sleep and store whatever loot they can in their dens, often leave a lot of extra loot on top of their platforms, have long respawn timers for whatever reason, and can have their dens destroyed and produce the loot before you now. Narwhales, skitter squid, and repairable via more salt. These 4 ocean fish food crafting is now a thing via Pearl's bottle exchange. The Strident Trident has had its damage and uses increased. Rock jaws have dropped their damage from 30 to 20. Moon Key sea stacks indicate the Moon Key's location. These 3 pirate rats here have waterproofness. Pirate bandanas increase steering wheel speed. Cannons will not destroy any structures we build on boats. All heavy fish now drop fish spotlight update in its entirety. At least as painless as possible, folks. Well wishes to all, go get wet, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.